Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive. Little two-game action today. Game 2, playoffs, presented by No House Advantage. Playoffs aren't. Our show is presented by No House Advantage. Dave Loughran, _D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Hey, how about that game from Russell Westbrook? Well, that was something else, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Josh is talking about, but Russell Westbrook obviously incredible in that game.
I thought so too. I mean, my God, who needs to shoot more than 20% when you can do what you did late in that game? Yeah, he was Josh was fired up. He actually had to calm himself down during the show.
He doesn't get passionate about many things the way he gets passionate about Russell Westbrook.
It's really remarkable. Yeah, like that sets him off. It's just that he has a hair trigger when it comes to Russ Westbrook. Kevin Clinton, best 3 for 19 game ever. Oh, I should have said that on the strategy show today. That would have got him on tilt. But
it's funny because he, I guess, did the opposite of what he always did with the Wizards, where with the Wizards, he'd play really well until the final 2 minutes, and then he would start looking off Bradley Beal and jacking 3-pointers and missing badly.
Well, to be fair, he did jack a 3-pointer up with less than a minute to go. But yeah, it was. All right. Well, anyway, we're happy to have you guys here. It's going to be a fun show today. 2 games. Lot to dive into. Of course, in these playoffs, you're just not going to get a ton of value. It's just the way it is. You're not going to get a lot of legitimately good value plays. Just looking at ownership, looking at the boom bust tool right now. And you get a bunch of guys in the 5K range, a few popular guys in the 4K range. Nobody that's going to make you feel good, though. I can tell you that much. And then only 4 teams to choose from, one of them being a 10-point spread with a 212.5 total. The other game being a 2-point spread with a 240 total. So lopsided in terms of where some of the best plays are coming from today, but we will break it all down. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. We got 600 people. We're almost at 100 likes. We got 75 likes, haven't even asked. So to those 75 of you, first of all, appreciate you. To everybody else who's about to atone for their sins, wash themselves clean, and bow down before the YouTube overlords, appreciate you too. Take a single second. You'll feel good about yourself. You'll know that you're doing something good for society, this world, and for us, helping us keep the lights on at Stokastic.com. There we go. Bam. Over 100. We'll get there. But as always, thank you in advance. I know you guys know what's got to be done. How you feeling today, though, man? You doing good? You doing anything tonight? You going out on the town?
No. Sunday's my one night out. Stay in, chill, watch basketball. Well, probably won't watch basketball. Watch baseball.
How late, in fact, how long were you out yesterday? Because I was getting messages from you pretty much from like sun up to sundown and past that.
Like 3 to 2.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know how you do that anymore. 3? Okay, so you went out at 3 to what? Just a bar or pizza place or something?
Yeah, bar.
Like a pizzeria bar. Oh, we got a lot of pizzeria bars around us. Maybe you said burger joint to me yesterday. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's where I normally go.
Okay.
I went to a different bar first and then went to that one.
So 3 o'clock.
It might have been 4. I don't know. It was a long day.
We'll go with 4. And then you walked in the doors at your apartment at 2?
Yeah, something like that.
Nice. Stumbled in. I mean, were you drinking in moderation? Was it one of those like pace yourself all the way till 2 o'clock?
Yeah. I mean, it was just like White Claws and shit. I wasn't like pounding liquor.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you could go out for 11 hours and come
home. It's
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Time just like once it gets like, I don't know, to like 9, then it just feels like everything like flies. And then suddenly it's like 2.
Well, we're back. I'm assuming you showed up for the MLB strategy show today. I heard you guys got into some weird conversations.
Yeah, I think we talked about gorilla milk.
You and Neil?
Yeah.
Did that come from chat or was that off the top of Neil's head?
Came from chat, I think. Okay. Somebody.
I figured.
I think it was somebody in chat said that gorillas are probably have the most human-like breast milk. And I said that I'm not sure I'd want to be the one trying to milk a gorilla.
Their theory sounds like it makes sense, though.
Yeah.
But I think I'll let someone else find out, as you pointed out. All right. Anyway, let's dive into it. We got 2 games today. We'll start with Brooklyn, make our way over to Philly, and then wrap it up with Golden State, Sacramento. We also have Live Before Lock coming up after this, so be sure not to go anywhere. They're going to take you all the way up till 7:30 tip. So, first up, Brooklyn Nets. Let's dive into this a little bit. Not a great performance last time out. They're certainly over. We had someone in the strategy show today being like, they're not overmatched. If you just took Embiid, Harden, and Maxey off the floor, this would be a game. God, dude. He's like, they have 2.5 players. If you just took all their best players off the floor, this would be a pretty even. He was not trolling. He was dead serious, dude. Serious.
That is one interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, we had some fun with that. And then someone was like, don't bully him. And nobody's bullying anybody. If you make comments like that, we're supposed to respond. You certainly expect us to respond. But yeah, he's like, they have 2.5 players. Who else can average? If all those guys were off the floor, who could average 15? And Josh and I like, well, actually, Tobias Harris averages 15 points on the season with them on.
Right.
And then it just snowballed from there. But with the Brooklyn Nets, I want to kick it off with Mikal Bridges not getting a lot of ownership today. Matter of fact, outside of like Royce O'Neal and Spencer Dinwiddie, the rest of this team is 25% or lower owned, which is pretty low for a 2-game slate. Some of these guys, though, do have some positive leverage scores, but Bridges, this stood out to me. So 21% ownership, Not that expensive, but only 14% optimal score. Clearly a scoring dependent player. At this point, there's just no denying that he's not going to get boards. He's not going to get assists. Are you going to Bridges today? Particularly, are you looking to get over the field on Bridges today at this salary?
Yeah, I mean, the salary is reasonable, but I think one thing to keep in mind, and it's, Brooklyn in general is pretty cheap, but pricing on DraftKings today just seems a little bit softer in general. So I think you have to keep that in mind. It's all relative to each other. And so, Bridges, like you said, he's a scoring dependent player. He's going to play huge minutes, but we do have him projected to be a bit over-owned here. He's really the only piece on Brooklyn that is projected to be over-owned. So I think if that ownership number holds, it's likely I would just be looking to other pieces from the Nets.
Paul Reed is a per-minute monster. Kicks good said, dude, yeah, just like I said, trade Embiid. Give Paul Reed a max contract. That guy's a stud. Sarcastic, obviously, but fun watching him. No doubt he's a ball of energy. When it comes to Dinwiddie, I'll get into these value plays in a second, but when we get into guys like Dinwiddie, underwhelming game last time out, but still, he's really the only viable playmaker on this entire team. A lot of missed alley-oops from Claxton and Sharp, from Dinwiddie. Some were on Dinwiddie for what it's worth. But what do we want to do with a guy like him today? He's only 7,200. It's not the best matchup here today, but that assuming this game stays competitive, who knows if it will, 10-point spread, he's going to play a ton of minutes in this one. He lost, 5 minutes in that blowout. So he was pacing north of 40 in game one.
Yeah, Dinwiddie played 36.5 minutes in.
Is that what we're going with now?
Yeah. In that game. And like you said, he lost 5 minutes at the end. So, you're getting a lot of playing time. It's a good price tag for him. He's played 25 games with Mikal Bridges, 1.08 DraftKings points per minute during the regular season. So, yeah, it's just a good price tag, 37% ownership, 33% chance of being optimal. Nothing really to see there. I think just pretty clearly a good play.
All right, let's get into some of the value. I mean, now we're getting into the weeds a little bit. We're going to go over everything here. Obviously, it's a 2-game slate. No stone unturned here on the deeper dive. Royce O'Neal, Cameron Johnson. Claxton's not exactly a value play. We can talk about that a little bit. Another pretty poor performance from him. But Daron Sharp getting this ownership is shocking to me. Even if it's 21% optimal score, the playing time seems odd. He was pacing only 12 minutes before the blowout. He got an additional 5 in that one, but he was really, even if you want to give him 14 minutes, even though he wasn't on pace to play more than 12. But yeah, Royce O'Neal right now is pulling 37% ownership. One of the most popular value plays on the entire slate.
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks to how difficult it can be to find value during the postseason. You do know Royce O'Neal is likely to play big minutes off the bench. Played 28 last game. If he ended up in the closing lineup, he was going to play 32 or 33. I don't know if he was going to be in the closing lineup or not. He did close the first half as well. But you're likely getting, at least 26 to 28 minutes from him, if not more. Not a great point per minute guy, but not the worst either. You're talking around, I think, 0.7, 0.75 DraftKings points per minute for O'Neal. So at 4,400, it's just a solid value play. It's going to open the door for you to get other stuff into your lineup that you actually want.
What about the rest of Brooklyn now when we're diving a little bit? Sharp is tough, man. And Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't know what we should realistically be projecting for minutes there. Seth Curry's getting 8%, slight positive leverage, but 11% optimal score, still not anything crazy. Outside of the guys we've talked about, Spencer Dinwiddie, Royce O'Neal, Mikal Bridges, once we get into these other options like Cameron Johnson, Nick Claxton, center only, 6,600 on DraftKings, Sharp, 18.7% ownership right now, and Dorian Finney-Smith and anybody else. How do you approach the rest of Brooklyn?
Yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith's sort of interesting to me in tournaments because he's relatively similar to Royce O'Neal and getting 1/3 the ownership. You only got 18 minutes from Finney-Smith last game, played about 12 minutes in the first half. If he's playing well, though, he can certainly find more minutes. So I'm more confident in O'Neal's playing time. He's also a better point per minute guy. Finney-Smith's at 0.66 DraftKings points per minute since joining the Nets. Royce O'Neal this season at 0.75. So I understand why O'Neal's getting more ownership, but I do think it's sort of an interesting spot where if Finney-Smith plays well. Maybe he does steal some minutes from Royce O'Neal. He's similarly priced, just getting a lot less ownership. I'm with you on Daron Sharp. That ownership, like I get it because he's a good point per minute guy. He's 3,300 for the season. You're talking about nearly 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. If he just plays 12 minutes, he can be a decent point per dollar value that opens other stuff up. What is surprising to me, though, and stood out to me this morning, is that why is Daron Sharp getting 19% ownership while Paul Reed gets 3%? They're basically the same play.
That's a great point.
I mean, the difference is that you project Embiid for more minutes than Claxton probably, but if this game is competitive, it's not like the Nets want to be running Daron Sharp out there. So, you're still expecting north of 30 minutes from Claxton. Like you said, if that game doesn't blow out, you're getting about 12 minutes from Daron Sharp. So I'm a little confused why he's getting so much more ownership than Reed is.
Yeah. So Paul Reed, 1.15 DraftKings points per minute. As you mentioned, Sharp around 1.11. There are very similar it's actually funny having a game like this where both backup centers are as similar as they are. I guess at this point, the only difference would be that maybe you're projecting Sharp for like what? 3 more minutes or something than Claxton here? Like how many minutes are you giving to Claxton today?
So 10? The other interesting thing,
it's not Claxton. I'm sorry. I meant Reed.
Yeah. I mean, I think like 12, like you said. Oh, wait, to Reed.
To Reed, like 10.
Yeah. 10. Yeah. 10 somewhere in there. The other interesting thing with Brooklyn is that you couldn't, they didn't go to this lineup for long. It was only 15 seconds until they threw the towel, but it looks like the closing lineup they were going to go with actually didn't have either one of the centers. They had subbed in Cameron Johnson again for 15 seconds, and then he came out and Daron Sharp came back. But for those 15 seconds, you had Seth Curry, Dinwiddie, Johnson, Bridges, and and O'Neal. So I guess there's some chance that you get a small lineup here too. Obviously, it's weird with Embiid, but maybe you get 30 minutes from Claxton, 12 from Sharp, something like that. You certainly could get more from Claxton, but either way, it's not like you expect Daron Sharp to be playing a ton of minutes.
We're in the fourth quarter. Oh, when Cameron Johnson subbed back in, you're talking about?
Yeah, 4-minute, 58-second mark.
Yeah, and that's weird. He came back in, and then they just immediately yanked him. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, then they yanked everybody.
Right. And Embiid was on the floor at that point.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if they were just going, yeah, no, you're right. I wasn't sure if they were just going smaller because Embiid was off the floor at that point, but that wasn't the case.
No, and they did it in the first half as well. Claxton closed the half, but there was a 51-second period where O'Neal, Dinwiddie, Johnson, Finney-Smith, and Bridges were out there.
My guess is they just needed more shooting out there, being down by as much as they were.
Yeah, my only point here is that you could get less than 48 minutes combined. Like probably not a lot less,
but possible. But the thing is, even if it's like 2 minutes less, that's still significant when you're playing a guy that's probably only projecting for like 12, 13 minutes to begin with.
Right. And it also matters for Claxton because like if you are saying, well, Sharp plays 12 minutes, that means Claxton plays 36, then Claxton looks really good. But knowing that there's a chance that you're getting like 30 from Claxton, he still looks good. Don't get me wrong, but just not quite as safe. Like if you knew you were getting 48 minutes, then one of a $6,600 Claxton or a $3,300 Sharp almost has to be a good play. But if there's some chance you're getting like 42 minutes, it's a little bit more possible for them to both just be mediocre.
Are there any other value options or low-owned plays from Brooklyn that deserve our attention, even if you don't like them, just worth pointing out? Like any of these guys getting low ownership?
So Cam Johnson's not getting low ownership, 25%, but he is projected to go a bit under-owned, 32% chance of being optimal. Didn't play a ton last game, but somebody that you certainly should expect to play more. Played 27.5 minutes, was going to play around 32 if the game were competitive, most likely. But you could certainly see him take on an even bigger role as well. So at 5,800, I do think he's a pretty interesting play. Seth Curry at 3,200. If he's going to get less than half the ownership of Daron Sharp, I don't hate it. Curry, not the same point per minute guy, but conceivably could play several minutes more than Sharp. He was just shy of 0.8 DraftKings points per minute this year. So at 8% ownership, I don't mind that one.
I'm going to ask you a question you can't really answer, but you can't answer precisely. but something that everyone could get your thoughts on. So in game one, you saw Vaughn really just go and say, we're not going to let Embiid do his thing. And then the Sixers went on to drop 21 threes, the most they've ever made in a playoff game, right? Do you think this could be a similar strategy here where you go, you know what, we still can't let Embiid beat us? Do you think it's fluid throughout the game? Or do you think that maybe this has changed up and you see a different defensive approach here because they were just raining down threes?
I mean, I think you probably just see different looks for Embiid again. I mean, you don't want to let Embiid beat you. You know, obviously you're 10-point dogs here for a reason. The Sixers are just a better team, but I expect them to be doubling Embiid, trying to keep the ball out of his hands. Just, you know, there's a better chance of Philly having a bad shooting day than there is, you know, Joel Embiid not destroying this team if you're just not doubling him. What are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
Jordan, my daughter, snuck into my office, just like ran in here, and I couldn't get her out. No one was around. All right, sorry. I missed every single word of what you said, but I'm going to assume you made some salient points.
Yeah, I mean, I think I stumbled a little bit because I looked at the screen and saw you just like waving your arms and flailing.
Trying to get her out. Nicely trying to escort her out, but she didn't want to leave. All right. Anyway, let's start with Joel Embiid. Like I said, he didn't really need to do much last game. You know what surprised me, though, was he only had 4 potential assists. You would have thought that in a spot like that, where every time he tried to drive, even just to get into his sweet spot, you know, they would take him out and he would I'm assuming, and Josh might be right, that maybe he just had a bunch of secondary assists in that game. But yeah, only 3 assists last game out. I actually bet over 3.5 assists on him today. Still, you look at that game, wasn't great. Didn't need to be, though, is the thing. He still shot fine. Like, he still was 11 for 11 from the free throw line. Poor rebounding, but he didn't need to do a whole lot. Do you go right back to the well with Joel Embiid today?
Yeah, I mean, if you can find the savings,
well, yeah, that's the caveat,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, if you can find the savings to get there, there's certainly nothing wrong with a $10,600 price tag for Embiid. Played 33 minutes in that game, was going to play around 36, 37 if it were competitive. Clearly a very, very good pay-up option if you can get there. You do have some cheaper good pay-up options as well, but we have Embiid projected for just about 8 DraftKings points more than the next closest guy. So I think that, you know, explains that he's still a priority.
John P said DeAndre Ayton is effing terrible. Holy God. I mean, he's not, but he did that one jump shot that he attempted from the top of the key was really, I don't know if you watched any of that game, but that was heinous. Jordan knows what I'm talking about. It's like straight off the front of the iron, right back, hit him in the head, knocked him over, Adam. His own shot. Such a bad shot, like Kendrick Perkins style. Bounced off the front of the rim, hit him in the head, and just flattened him in the middle of the free throw line.
I'm trying to find it on Twitter now.
Yeah, it didn't happen. You're not going to find it.
Yeah.
But it was a bad shot, though.
I wasn't actually listening to the details you said. I just knew you were explaining a ridiculously
I took some
bad
liberties.
shot.
Yeah, I took some liberties.
Yeah.
But you were envisioning how funny that would be, right?
I just assumed DeAndre Ayton had a ridiculously bad shot, and I was going to find it.
Yeah, you can imagine what it would be like, right? Me and her got it on. What's that from? If you don't know this, I will leave the show.
I don't know it.
No, you didn't. But you can imagine what it would be like, right? You don't know what that's from? Dude, no. You're 33, 34 years old. You don't know what that's from?
33.
Jordan, do you know what that's from? You guys disgusting.
I mean, so I recognize the quote. I'm just like having trouble placing it.
All right. I'll give you a couple more. That is correct. If pee in your pants is cool, consider me my what?
Billy Madison.
There we go. All right. There we go. Yeah, got it. Steve Buscemi's character in that is one of the greatest, by the way, where he's going to shoot everybody.
Oh, yeah, with the list.
Yeah, he's crossing it off with lipstick. That Veronica Vaughn. Oh, man. Ghetto farmer boy. I agree. Everyone, Josh said, he called the shit poop. That's what it's like, the worst, best. Let me ask you, because we got plenty of time here. What do you think is one of the best, worst movies out there? For me, Dumb and Dumber is one of the best comedies out there. Horror, like, not a great movie, but one of the best ever. I'd put Billy Madison right up there with it. Do you have a bad, great, and don't tell me like Sharknado or any of that shit, like a good movie, a bad movie that's just so good?
I do. I'm just like having trouble thinking of it.
It's almost always going to be a comedy, in my opinion. Right. No, Step Brothers was a legitimately good movie, Malachor. That's like an excellent movie. That's not even a bad movie. That movie's fantastic.
I mean, I know we've talked about it during Christmas. The Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jingle All the Way?
Oh, Jingle All the Way. That's a pretty good bad movie. Yeah. Major Pain. That's a great answer. Grandma's Boy. No, see, Sam. Grandma's Boy is a fantastic movie. Yeah. Like, that's not even bad. Billy Madison's just so dumb. Everyone's saying Grandma's Boy is my favorite comedy. It's not a bad movie. It's a great movie. Bad Santa, also a fantastic. You guys are just naming great movies.
Right.
I didn't see Cocaine Bear, but I would assume that that's terrible.
It's pissing me off though, because I feel like I have like on the tip of my tongue like a movie that I immediately thought of. I just can't come up with what movie it is.
Julian said Joe Dirt. I feel like that's probably. I can't tell if that's a good answer or not. The simulation said That's My Boy. I think that probably fits. Also, an Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
It's great, man, but it's bad. Like, it's dumb.
Right.
You could probably pull any Adam Sandler movie. Grown Ups. Wasn't big on Little Nicky.
Oh, I was gonna say. I think I immediately went to Dude, Where's My Car? But that actually, it was on TV like a few months ago. It was like unwatchable now.
Leaky Crease, nice name, said that is that where you saw that? He commented it too. Yeah, I feel like I might go back and watch that, and it's just bad.
It's awful.
Is it
like,
that bad?
I saw it on TV, and I was like, oh man, I haven't seen this in so long. You know, like I thought it was funny when I was however old. And I watched maybe 20 minutes of it. I was like, I cannot watch this.
Yeah, I might have to go back, and I don't know if I should. Tony said best Sandler movie is Uncut Gems. No, like it was fine, but no, dude. Have you seen the movie Click?
I think so. Adam Sandler.
I cried watching the movie Click.
I remember. I feel like I only watched it like once because like I didn't like. I wanted like a funny movie.
Dude, when he was laying in the street, I don't remember. No joke. Started to tear up a little bit. Anybody who's man enough to admit it, they got a little emotional at that part and Click. And then you go, oh, geez, it was all a dream. Josh said I cried uncontrollably. I can't tell. He's probably trying to troll me, but I'm telling you, you guys go back, watch that scene, watch that movie, watch that scene, and tell me you don't get choked up a little bit. That's all. All right. Thank you, Raimundo. It is a tearjerker. Absolutely. And Jeremy, Longest Yard, the one with Sandler, also great movie. He broke through my nose. All right. You ready? Keep this going. Hubie Halloween. My buddy said I got to go back and rewatch that. I don't know if you saw it. I thought it was so bad that it was essentially unwatchable.
What movie?
Hubie Halloween with Adam Sandler.
No idea what that is.
All right, Josh is backing me up too.
Somebody said cried in the theater seeing Marley and Me. I was working at a movie theater at the time, and I just refused to watch it.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I refused to watch it. If I had to go into the theater, like I would make sure that it was over, and I didn't have to catch the end.
You were working there when it was airing?
Yeah.
I can't watch animals get hurt. Or, like,
I can't. I've never seen Old Yeller. I've never watched Marley and Me.
Would you not take people getting killed in movies 1,000 times out of 1,000 before like a dog?
Yeah, 1 million.
Not even close, right? It's not even, and it sounds so messed up. But yeah, don't kill the pups, man. Heavyweights was great too. Ben Stiller in that. Josh and I said the other day we want to find one of those blobs that we can do. I don't know if you remember that, but the blob was the shit. They jump off and shoot them 100 feet in the air. Saying we get someone from my 600-pound life to jump off and launch us into orbit.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The things where you jump and it's in the water. It's like a big something filled with air, and you're on the one end. Someone lands and it shoots you up in the air.
Like a trampoline?
No. All right. Philadelphia 76ers. Now I'll send you a picture. We got to Embiid. James Harden. What a horrible shooting game from 2-point range, but he's like 7 for 13 from 3. Nice usage. You're going to get the dimes from him. That price point at $9K today, this is one I wanted to ask you about. Like, once you get to this James Harden price point, and maybe they do try and play Joel Embiid the way they did, and Harden ends up seeing similar usage, although somehow he just doesn't get to the free throw line anymore. He has 8 free throws over his last 5 games, which is shocking.
Yeah, that's incredibly low. But I do really like the 9K price tag, and I'm surprised he's not getting more ownership, just because it's going to be a little bit easier to get to him than Embiid without having to go to, Daron Sharp or Royce O'Neal, guys like that, at least, as often. So it seems like he's going a little bit under owned here. I'm surprised at 9K he's not getting more. And the way that, the last game played out, like you said, certainly doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because that is in the realm, that is in the range of outcomes that you could just see Joel Embiid not limited, but forced to get the ball out of his hands. Yeah. Dodgeball is a great movie, by the way, whoever said that. Love Dodgeball. Oh, Vince Vaughn style. The rest of the Sixers, though, it gets ugly pretty quick. Maxey at that price, Tobias Harris at 6K, Melton, Niang, McDaniels. What do you think of a 5% PJ Tucker if he plays like 28, 29 minutes, which he was on pace for last game?
Yeah, I mean, 5%, it's okay. Like, it's PJ Tucker. Obviously, he's not going to do much. But to your point also, if the Nets play the same way, you're going to get open corner threes for PJ Tucker. He's cheap enough. If he knocks down a few, you're fine. I don't think he's a great play, but I also don't think he should be getting like 1/8 the ownership of Royce O'Neal, for example. O'Neal's the better play, but I don't think he's that much better. So from that standpoint, I think he's okay. I do like this price tag on Maxey at 6,700. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he plays more than the 32.5 minutes he played last game. Lost 2.5 to garbage time, but even if you just see him out there for 37, 38 minutes, that shouldn't be surprising to anybody. So I think he looks okay, going a little bit under owned there. 21% chance of being optimal, 18% ownership. Same can be said for Harris at 6K. Like, these guys all just benefit or have the potential to benefit if they game plan the same way against Embiid.
Do you want to talk any more on Paul Reed? Like, would you get to, he's 3% right now. What do you think is reasonable if you were trying to get over the field on Paul Reed today, just knowing that Sharp is 19%?
Yeah, it just kind of strikes me as a spot where, if we take the ownership and you just assume that somebody in that role should be like 20% owned, it just seems more like you should have like 10% of each than all of it going to Sharp. Like, I don't think either one's a great play. They're
right,
both, sort of the epitome of the value you get in the postseason, where you're just hoping 10 minutes of somebody turns into a productive fantasy score. And there's a good chance that it doesn't. But, he is at least a good point per minute guy. You do expect him to get the backup minutes without Embiid. We saw Reed play all of the minutes that Embiid did not play other than garbage time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just at 3%, that's a pretty low mark.
Anything else on Philly?
I don't really think so. Niang played 20 minutes last game. McDaniels played 17. Neither one of them are very popular. If you want to go to them a little bit in place of like Royce O'Neal or something, again, that's fine given the ownership disparity. But none of those pieces are ones you're going to be confident about.
Okay. Let's talk about Golden State and Sacramento. Yeah. Stanley Johnson side chick. Yeah, that's one of the best movies. Necessary? Is it necessary for me to drink my own urine? No, but I do it anyway because it's sterile and I like the taste. Have you watched Dodgeball? Because if not, you gotta go back and watch it.
Yeah. I didn't recognize the quote, but yeah, I've seen Dodgeball several times.
About as useless as a cock-flavored lollipop.
I don't remember that one either. I don't know why I don't remember these.
Yeah, you gotta go back. They actually TV edited it to the poopy flavored lollipop, but it's cock flavored lollipop, believe it or not. No House Advantage.
White Chicks is a decent bad movie.
What?
Answer. White Chicks is a decent bad movie answer.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in forever. Like, I don't really even remember it.
What was the one with
It was the Wayans brothers, right?
Yeah. What was the one with? Damn, I can't even think of his name. So that's not Jamie Kennedy.
Oh.
Yeah, Malibu's Most Wanted.
Malibu's Most Wanted. Yeah, that was kind of like a cult classic back at the time.
Yeah.
That got pretty popular. Yeah, I forgot about that. He was rich, right? Like, wasn't he just like kind of spoiled rich kid?
Yeah, he lived in like he lived in Malibu.
Yeah, right. That would make sense. Okay,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Also, if you want to throw some bad good movies in there, I think you could look to a lot of Chris Farley movies, like Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, those type of movies. Pretty good as far as good, bad movies go. I'll tell you something that's good and good. No house advantage. What's also good is you're getting 100% deposit bonus up to $100 when you sign up using the link in the description and in chat. How do you feel about playing a 5-pick lineup, hitting all 5 and 21xing? Yeah. Or 11xing on 4, 5xing on 3. You can play it however you want. 2, 3, 4, or 5. It's also available, if you got states that don't have legal sports betting, you play No House Advantage. It's a beautiful thing. You're just picking props. And also, they have softer lines than these traditional books, no doubt about it. We have the prize or the No House Advantage parlay builder. We have the No House Advantage section on our Bet Pro tool. If you're looking to get in on that and really get an edge on all of that, No House Advantage, all of the best bets on No House Advantage, you just sort by expected win rate. Not a lot of people out there are getting tools for No House Advantage to really be able to take advantage of something like that. Also, they still have the Pick'em contest where you're playing against the field for cash prizes. You're just building lineups with the props that you like most. Over or under, no juice on either side. Same goes for the against the house too. There's no juice. It's just the over or the under. But yeah, with the Pick'em, you're playing for cash. You can multi-enter. You can have there's a lineup generator in No House Advantage that'll build them for you once you put your favorite selections in. Over or under on the props. The ones you put at the top of the lineup get the most points. The ones you put at the bottom get the fewest. The ones you're least confident in. Yeah, really cool format. If you haven't checked it out yet, both formats, whether it's Pick'em or it's against the house. Against the house, you hit all 5 picks, you're 21xing your entry fee. Yeah, it's an awesome format. Awesome site. Getting $100 first match, 100% deposit bonus, up to $100 on No House Advantage. And we have legitimately all of the tools from top to bottom that you need to win over there. And you can't ask for more than that. So check it out, nohouseadvantage.com. Link in the description and in chat if you're looking to get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. All right. Talk about the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green, 33 minutes last game. I mentioned to Josh this morning, 24 potential assists for Draymond Green last game.
That's a lot.
Yeah, 17 potential rebounds. Did nothing as a scorer, produced nothing, but that's par for the course, 4 points. He is very popular today, though, 49%. What's interesting, we have him still at 56% optimal score. Like we have him with a positive 6.7% leverage score in our boom bust tool, despite 49% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, he's just really cheap, and he's also a forward, which we know is just typically the weakest position. You always have a ton of really good point guards. You always have a ton of really good centers. Forward typically a bit more difficult to fill out. So it makes sense to me. He's going to play big minutes here. He's only $6,100. He can get it done in a variety of ways. Certainly not scoring dependent, obviously. If he does score, it's just icing on the cake. But for the season, just shy of a fantasy point per minute. Yet now you have a great matchup against Sacramento. Going to play big minutes. Yeah, it completely makes sense. 50% ownership actually does seem a little bit low.
Yeah, I like him a lot today. That price, as you pointed out, is just cheap. 240 total in this game. The last game was played at a 105 pace. These teams are going to fly. And there's going to be so many peripheral opportunities, defensive opportunities. Maybe he'll even get to 8 points, actual points. Might be enough, honestly, on a day like today. The thing, though, that kind of stands out the most is Josh had mentioned this morning that he's much lower on Steph Curry than the field, much higher on De'Aaron Fox, who you're getting a pretty significant discount on. How do you square the two of those guys today going head to head?
Yeah, I mean, the price on Fox is $1,100 less. And when you do have questionable value like we do today, that certainly makes a difference. But the field's also higher on Fox than Curry. So, pretty much in line with Josh. The problem I think I run into the most with Curry is that he's more expensive than James Harden and only $1,000 less than Embiid. So he's kind of in that middle ground where it makes it tough to really love getting to him. But it is a great matchup. 32% chance of being optimal, 33% ownership. On a 2-game slate, 33% ownership certainly isn't a crazy high number.
It might be a bad, good movie. I haven't seen it in so long. Do you remember the movie with DJ Qualls, The New Guy?
Vaguely, yeah.
Someone in chat who's seen that more recently than I have, because it's from 2001, has to tell me if it's actual dog shit or if it's kind of a fun movie and I should watch it again.
I watched it recently.
Those late 90s, early 2000 comedies were kind of great, if we're being honest.
There were a lot of bad, good movies. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's also just my age. You look back on something like that and everything seems good, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
like what you said about Dude, Where's My Car?
Right. There were so many movies that came out that I thought were hilarious because I was like 10.
Yes, but you have fond memories of them.
Right.
And then you watch it again, you're like, what did I just watch?
I mean, have you rewatched Austin Powers recently?
Is it terrible? No, not in
It's not terrible, but it's not
what we thought.
Yeah. Like it's still entertaining, but it's not like laugh out loud, like crying funny.
What was the one with Jason Biggs where he had to live in
American Pie?
No, where he had to live in a veterinary clinic.
No idea.
Yeah, he had to, I don't know. Whatever. All right. Movies today suck is what the truth is.
Yep.
No good movies anymore. I feel like the last good movies were made in 2017. Hell or High Water.
No, you still haven't watched that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, you got to watch it. Wind River. 2017 was some great movies. Everything's gone downhill since then. Is Klay Thompson someone that stands out to you today? 40% ownership. Also positive leverage score, getting 43% optimal in the boom bust tool. Play.
Yeah. 43% optimal, 41% ownership, $6,900 price tag. So in that same price range as like Tyrese Maxey, who's getting a little bit less ownership. But shooting guard only. I would certainly like him more if he had small forward eligibility. But you kind of know, with him and Curry, they project reasonably well for their salaries. They're obviously good plays, but the range of outcomes for them is just so wide. Their ceiling is so high because, when these guys get hot, they just don't miss. And so anytime you have the potential for someone to just go knock down 10 3-pointers, especially on DraftKings where you get the bonus, it's going to be, an appealing play in tournaments. So 6,900 for Klay, I think is fine. I wish he were a little bit less expensive, but still a very fair price tag.
When you're looking at the rest of when you're looking at the rest of Golden State today, do we have an update on Jordan Poole yet?
He went through shoot around.
Okay, so we should expect him to play. Kevon Looney played 32 minutes last game. And I know he wasn't great, but he does have significant upside if he's getting the minutes. Now, that price point on Looney is 5,200. If I told you today that Kevon Looney was going to play north of 30 minutes, we can't guarantee it, of course. Last year in the postseason, his minutes were pretty erratic. But if I told you that Kevon Looney was going to play 30 plus minutes today and you could play him at 5,200 against the Kings, tell me you wouldn't have a ton of him.
Oh, yeah, you would. And we have him projected for like 27 minutes, which I think is very fair. But clearly there's a path to him playing north of 30 minutes. And I think he kind of gets slept on when you think about fantasy producers for Golden State, because, you have Curry, you have Thompson, you have Poole, like you have all these scorers. Kevon Looney averaged over a fantasy point per minute this season. And at 5,200 against the Kings in a spot where they certainly would like him to be out there for defensive reasons, he's just a really good value. I'm kind of surprised he's not getting more ownership.
Me too. I really thought, and yeah, Waiting's a great, good, bad movie. Whoever mentioned that. Great answer. Great answer. Dude that can't piss in public, that gets stage fright. Andy Milonakis doing the whippets as the bus boy.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it in a while.
How do you know? It's so weird. I guess, I don't know. I just remember.
I have horrible movie recall.
Yeah, it's great. Guy's out for the birthday with the lady, just like white trash. And I guess she'll have a water. It's like, you know what? It's her birthday. Let her get a Coke. While he's like knocking back Jack Daniels. Waiting's a great movie. All right. Sorry, I'm derailing this, but it's 2 games today, so I don't know what you want me to do. The Wiggins off the bench. What did he play? 20 minutes last game? 20 minutes, I think it was.
28.
Oh, did he play? Wiggins played 28 last game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind. DiVincenzo, Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole's 5,700. Gary Payton. I know Josh had a little bit of interest in him today. Where else can we go outside of the top guys we mentioned today?
I think Wiggins looks pretty interesting. 5,900, small forward, power forward. So again, you're getting that forward eligibility, which is nice. We have him with a 26% chance of being optimal at only 20% ownership. Wouldn't be surprised if he played a little bit more. Certainly they want him playing a bunch of minutes. So I think he looks good at that price. If Jordan Poole plays 5,700, you have a ceiling there. It's just that for one, he only played 22 minutes last game, and that was, consistent in both halves, played about 10, 11 minutes in the first half. But if he's scoring and playing well, you can certainly see him play a little bit more. I think I prefer getting to Wiggins given the positional eligibility at similar ownership, but Poole certainly playable. You got 20 minutes from DiVincenzo, about 21 from Peyton. They're both cheap. DiVincenzo's getting a little bit more ownership. I am with Josh. I like Peyton a bit. I think Kuminga's interesting in tournaments just because he's, another solid point per minute guy. He only played 10 minutes last game, but there are ways the rotation could go where he plays a little bit more. And at low ownership, I think he's somebody that isn't likely to succeed, but at least has a path to success at low ownership in tournaments, whereas most guys that are going to be low owned on a 2-game slate really don't have a path at all. There's at least ways it could break where Kuminga plays more.
And yeah, James, I saw what you said about the Looney rebounds. I like the over 9.5 boards on him today. I even considered laddering his rebounds. I talked about it in my video on the Odd Shopper channel. You could get 15 at plus 650. So yeah, I think 13 was like plus 380 or something. I've been debating whether or not to go with the little ladder on the rebounds, but we'll see. I haven't decided yet. Probably a bad decision. Couple super chats here from Mike, member for 23 months. Yeah, free super chat. Thanks, Mike. Max of 2, DiVincenzo, Wiggins, or Peyton, Adam. So 2 of the 3, DiVincenzo, Wiggins, or Peyton.
Wiggins for sure. The other 2 are very similar. We have DiVincenzo by like 1.5, so I guess DiVincenzo.
And then my filler are Steph and Gary Payton or Green and Spencer Dinwiddie. So
I like the Green Dinwiddie side. That's just one of those 2v2s that I typically prefer in the postseason. Like in the regular season, it would be the Steph side because you're just going to be able to find guys in that 4K range that legitimately look good. But here, in the postseason, you're getting big minutes from Green and Dinwiddie, whereas you kind of need. The Steph side can obviously win because Steph can just go nuts and score 60 himself. But I prefer the playing time that you're getting from both Green and Dinwiddie.
Yeah, that's a good call, just given the restrictions you have on a slate like this. All right, close it out with the Kings.
Fast Times is just a good movie.
It's like a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was hot too, man. Remember, what's her name? Phoebe Cates.
Sure.
Is that her name? Dude, the one in the pool? The one in the pool?
Like I remember, but I don't remember her name.
Where he's pumping off through the window?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I watched that not too long ago.
Yeah, she was something, man. Gotta say. That's a good movie. And that kind of, you want to talk about movies that hold up. That's from the 80s, right?
Yeah. That and was Ferris Bueller was the same time period, right?
Damn, was Ferris Bueller in the 80s?
I thought
late 80s?
I thought so.
That's a great movie. That's not like a bad, good movie. That's a good movie. 1986.
Yeah.
Damn.
And Fast Times was 85, I think. 82.
Yeah, that's an old one. 1980. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's still doing stuff. She's on that Netflix show right now. All right. Well, let's talk about the Kings. About to get wild here. We got I love EMAC. Yeah, EMAC didn't chime in the whole time until we started talking about movies from the 80s.
Right. Back when he was our age.
Yeah, I love it. What's up, EMAC? Post your free article in here for today too. It's the best article we got out there. EMAC breaks it down, all the building blocks for today's slate. And if you're looking for, we talk about our boom bust tool and the ownership and everything. If you're looking for 50% off everything, whether you want to do a week of just basketball, you want to do a week of baseball, you want to do a month of one sport or everything from think about what we have going on right now. MMA, we have PGA, NHL, NBA, MLB in full swing. What else? There's more out there. NASCAR, like tennis, everything. If there's contests out there, we got content for it. We have all the top golfers tool, top drivers, top fighter, top pitcher, top stacks, top batters tool, ownership projections, player project, everything. And you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, throw that on top of it, set yourself up to the next level. 50% off everything we have on the site. The link is in the description. The link is in chat. F1, good call. Thank you, Stayad. F1, all like I said, we got everything out there. So check it out. 50% off. Links in the description. Jordan can throw that in the chat too for anybody that's looking to get in on that. If you've been on the fence, you can get 50% off instead of paying the full price. We do this because we think you're going to win and we think you're going to want to stick around. You get access to the premium Discord as well. And if you stick around for our Hall of Fame, if nothing else, stick around for the Hall of Fame segment before the deeper dive and live before lock. Jordan and I did it this morning for tonight. There's like 15 people in there that are just crushing with the top stacks and the top pitchers tool. Steve Buzzard, our own Steve Buzzard, CFO of Stokastic, took down about $350,000 in 3 days on three or four different contests, and then or 250, and then he took down a seat to the live final using the top pitchers, top stack tool, using the ownership, using those tools. So yeah, get in the door. If you're looking for something less expensive to build the lineups out for you, the NBA lineup generator, and we will have MLB very soon. That's less than $4.50 for your first week. Links for everything in the description. All right. Let's talk about the Sacramento Kings. On that side, you've got De'Aaron Fox. You've got Domantas Sabonis. You have Malik Monk coming off a very strong game in game one. And then Kevin Huerter pulling 54% ownership right now, 56% optimal. We have to start with a 5K Kevin Huerter at shooting guard, small forward eligibility.
Yeah, just a really, really good price tag for him. He, disappointed. He was really popular last game, but still played 31 minutes. And if you look at his rotations, there was the potential for him to play quite a bit more also. Shooting guard, small forward, like you said, it's just really, really easy to get him into a lot of different builds, and that's going to drive the ownership up, but also drive up the optimal percentage. That's why you're seeing him at 56% to be optimal. He just fits into like everything.
When we're talking about though the rest of this team, like Monk, how do you approach a guy like Malik Monk today?
I think that it's really interesting. Like you get a really high ceiling from him. And you saw it last game where, he came off the bench and just couldn't miss, played the entire fourth quarter, played the finals, like 16 and a half minutes of the game, finished with 32 points, scored the most points on the team other than De'Aaron Fox. So that's what the upside looks like. The floor, though, is that, he doesn't play well, and Keegan Murray plays more minutes. Keegan Murray plays more. Huerter maybe plays a little bit more. So he's really volatile. But at 5,100, there is still, I think, more upside than downside going there. We do have him projected to be a bit under-owned at 36%, 42% chance of being optimal. So I do like Monk. I just think like you shouldn't expect what we saw last game, but he doesn't have to do what he did last game to still pay off a $5,100 price tag. With
Fox, though, man, what a remarkable performance. I was telling Josh about the J.R. Smith clip with J.J. Redick. I don't know if you saw that, where he's talking about how Matthew Dellavedova almost died trying to guard Steph in 2016. Actually almost died. Like a full day hospital trip, fluids, IV, all that stuff. And like how much he respected Delly for not making excuses and just being like, look, he's not saying anything. He couldn't talk. He couldn't breathe. Just got tuned up in that game. They lost in 6, I believe. But De'Aaron Fox, when asked after the game, he's like, "You think I didn't see that J.R. Smith clip?" Like he knew what was coming. And I mean, Curry still dropped 30, but Fox outdid him on the offensive side. That's not to say it's going to happen every game. Of course not. Steph's the GOAT, one of. But what do you make of that price point on De'Aaron Fox today? And naturally, I know that he's not I know that he's not under-owned. He's 41% owned. But I mean, if you're going to continue to see like 30% usage from De'Aaron Fox in huge minutes in a massive up-tempo game, it's hard not to think he's underpriced.
Yeah, he looks really good. 8,500 is a very easy price tag to get to, a little bit less expensive than Harden. You're getting huge minutes from him. Obviously, he's a very strong point per minute guy as well. I don't see any issue with De'Aaron Fox's ownership, really. I think that he's just a very, very good play.
Wait, Katz just typed the letter J and you timed them out. You don't even read it anymore.
No.
Someone said, what happened to him? The Mike Conley the other day broke him. He can't come back. You can't come back from that Mike Conley take. Can't come back from it. He will. He'll try, but you can't come back from that. Anyway, the Domantas Sabonis spot too is interesting. I see a lot of comments in chat too talking about how Domantas Sabonis over Fox today. A lot of opinions out there. I can respect that. We've got Sabonis at 33% ownership, 34% optimal. Fox at 42% ownership, 38% optimal. Sabonis actually has slight positive leverage in the boom bust tool, 40% boom probability projected for 51 fantasy points, 9,300 though. So he is more expensive. He is center only eligible. So it's not exactly apples to apples here between him and Fox, but How, when you look at the center position, do you want to approach somebody like Domantas Sabonis?
Yeah, he's obviously a really good player. The reason you're getting less ownership and a lower optimal percentage is just that you have fewer spots you can roster him at. It makes it tough because like you have Kevon Looney as a solid value at center. You have Joel Embiid for 1,300 more that projects like 8 points better. So that's why you're seeing relatively low ownership at 33%. I think it's a very similar play to Steph Curry, where they're clearly very high ceiling plays and very good plays. But as you start building lineups, I think you're just going to see that in a lot of those lineups, you sort of like, if you're going to get to them, you have to make an effort to do it. They don't just naturally fall into lineups like some of these other pieces do. So I think he's a good play in tournaments. You know, anytime you're getting 2/3 of the field not playing Domantas Sabonis on a 2-game slate, that gives you plenty of upside. But I think pretty much correctly owned in terms of optimal percentage as well.
I'm going to ask you a question at the end of the show. I want you to think about it now, though. Okay. Since we're talking about movies and chat has been super engaged. Shout out to you guys. Somehow we're not at 300 likes yet. I mean, we got 1,900 people in the room with us today. Just if you forgot, I get it. We forget things. My memory is as bad as a goldfish, but that's why I'm here to remind you. Take a second, hit that thumbs up, show us some love, help us keep the lights on around here, then go back to whatever you were doing. Here's the question I'm going to ask you. We talked about good, bad movies. I want you to think about a movie, and I'm going to give you some time. We still got 5 minutes, and we still got to get through this Kings team. And we got Live Before Lock and the Stokastic Hall of Fame segment coming up next. What is a movie that everyone, this just widely or highly praised movies, all these renowned movies that everyone says are great? I want you to think of one that you totally disagree with. Movie that everybody loves, and you just think it sucks. You don't have to answer now.
Yeah, okay.
Give you some time, but I want you to think, Jordan, I want you to think of one too. Movie that everyone says is amazing, and you just think it's utter dog shit. I got one. I
mean, the problem for me is I just don't watch movies. So like, there's a bunch of movies that people like or love that I just refuse to watch, but I don't know about ones I disliked.
Okay. Well, I'll give you one. I'll give you one at the end. I'll give you one. Noah said Forrest Gump. Ooh, Andrew, Napoleon Dynamite. Ooh, all right. See, the Cloud Atlas, Avatar, Fast and Furious. See, look, people get it. People see where this is going.
I thought about Avatar, but I actually liked Avatar. But that's a good because I was trying to think of like what movies people even like really loved, and yeah, somebody said Titanic. Like I thought Titanic was good. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen Star Wars. I've never seen 300.
There was a movie called The Sound of Metal. Okay,
I definitely haven't seen that.
From a few years ago. Everybody acted like this movie was just stupendous. And fine, maybe it was okay. He's in a metal band. It's just like him and this chick, and he loses his hearing and slowly goes deaf, kind of rapidly goes deaf. The reason I hated this movie so much is because the song that they decided to play on every single time they went out on stage was a cacophony of garbage, just terrible, terrible music. And I couldn't get past that. And after that, I could not enjoy the whole movie. They couldn't pick a single decent song to come up with. They just picked mess. No wonder he went deaf, dude, because his brain was telling him he can't listen to that garbage any longer. Sound of Metal. There's mine. As you can tell, not a fan.
I've seen like 2 minutes of one of the Lord of the Rings movies.
I never saw any of them, or Harry Potter.
I have seen the Harry Potter movies.
Are there any value plays for the Kings that you think are viable? Like, can you get into any Lyles or Keegan Murray, who knows? He might play 15 minutes again. Davian Mitchell. Are any of these guys remotely viable today?
Trey Lyles, I think, is like, he's a good point per minute guy. He's likely to give you 18-ish minutes. Played exactly 18 last game. 3,900, very reasonable. I really like Keegan Murray in tournaments. He's only getting 15% ownership. So you're getting less than half the ownership of Royce O'Neal. He played really poorly last game, only played 16 minutes. But this is somebody that the Kings certainly want to play well and want to play more. If Malik Monk's not playing out of his mind, you can certainly see more playing time for Murray there. I don't think he should be as low owned as he is relative to somebody like Royce O'Neal. When I think the playing time here is probably a bit of an anomaly. They certainly want him out there knocking down threes.
Favorite
also,
value
Alex Len is like Paul Reed. Like, Daron Sharp shouldn't be getting 5 times the ownership of Alex Len.
Yeah, that's a good call. It is weird that he's so much more popular. And it's not like we're factoring in blowout run here. I don't know. Seems odd. I'll ask you this, though. Of all the value plays, let's say sub 5K. So Herder doesn't count. Looney doesn't count. I like Looney quite a bit today at that 52 if he can continue even if he doesn't get 32 minutes, even if he gets like 27, he could still get you there. He's a north of a fantasy point per minute guy. Monk doesn't count. South of 5K, sorry, I meant to say. Who's your favorite value play? Like, does it have to be Royce? Is it Royce O'Neal here, or is it just going to be a low-owned guy that you can get over the field on easily?
In tournaments, I think it's Keegan.
You think it's Keegan Murray?
Yes.
Okay. Who's your favorite high-end play to wrap this one up today? You have Embiid, Curry, and I'll include the 4 north of 9K, Harden, Sabonis, Curry, and Embiid.
I really like the price on Harden.
Me too. 9K flat. It's a great price. Stick around. Hall of Fame coming up next. Inducting you fine people. If you're rocking that Stokastic avatar, or I was nice, even though one of our friends wasn't. I think Travis. He's like, can you just get me up there? Give me a shout out. He took down I think it was a quarter jukebox, of course, mini max, no problem. But if you want the free month of Stokastic, you want us to do the bragging for you. You want to get up there, get $120 value subscription. You want to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, the honor of that. Incredible. Rock that Stokastic avatar, stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at StokasticHOF. You'll see right now. And then the boys are coming up right after this for Live Before Lock. Take you up till 7:30. Appreciate you guys. By the way, 422 likes. That was a big push at the end. Shout out to you. 80. We're 78 away from 500. Don't see that happening in the next couple minutes, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Guys, have a great rest of the night. We'll catch you back here in the morning. Stick around. Live Before Lock coming up next. Yo, you know what time it is. It's that time of week again. Yeah, Stokastic Hall of Fame time. Giving out some free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 action there to a lot of you today. And getting you inducted into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. What's better than that? See your name up there in bright lights. Also get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. You're trying to get your name up here, trying to get the month. All you got to do is go to stokastic.com/avatar. Download that profile picture right there, stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at StokasticHOF. Stokastic Hall of Fame with a screenshot. Maybe you want to say something nice too. You don't have to, but if you want to, that's cool as well. And get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we'll do it each and every week. Let's get it started. Now, a man who he's with us here at Stokastic. We got to shout out our own guy here, Steve Buzzard, because what a monster week we saw from Steve, using and repping the Stokastic MLB tools. Pumped MLB is back, and this is the Colts, by the way. 2 tips to win all the money this year. 1, the MLB tools from Stokastic are hands down the best in the industry. 2, always be sure to make at least one lineup stacking the Dodgers. That's the first 100K from Steve. Then we got 3 days in a row from Steve, 50K. Mixed in there was another 100K, and I believe a live finals qualifier ticket as well. Shout out to Steve, absolutely repping Stokastic in a huge way over the early stages of the MLB season. And Dave as well with the Stokastic avatar. 2nd place in the 4-seamer. Love the top stacks tool. Hell yeah, man. Glad to see it work for you. $2,500, 2nd place for Dave. Followed up by Calvin. Use the Masters promotion to give the PGA lineup generator a try. Yeah, first week, $4.48. Can't beat it. Help me get 1 birdie away from taking it all. Had the old avatar, just updated to the new one. Hopefully I can still get my free money. Yeah, we got you, man. We got you. Thank you guys for all the insightful content. Congrats, dude. That's awesome to see. Using the brand new PGA lineup generator. And Lisa, been a good start to the MLB season. Thanks to Stokastic, plus a bonus of the free month. Yeah, Jujubee, you've been up here before. $500. First place in the mini max all day. We'll take that. And Dave, another Dave Oliver. Thank you guys for your awesome MLB content. Well, thanks for using it. Thanks for watching us, Dave. 3rd, 4th, and 5th place in the Monday MLB pinch hit. Rocking another Stokastic avatar, but still Stokastic nonetheless. Get the one that says it, though, man. It looks better. XFL expert El Cuatro Loco took down the quarter jukebox last night thanks to hashtag fade cores and the Cubs going off in a shootout last night. Yeah, first place in the jukebox for El Cuatro Loco. Nice little $166 win there. Followed up by Andrew. Nice to get in the Stokastic Hall of Fame early into the baseball season. Best tools in the business, especially for baseball. Yeah, shout out to you, Andrew. First place quarter juke. Dude, our guys just crushed the quarter jukebox every single week. Travis Scott, I'm not rocking the avatar, so I don't expect a free month. That's all right. If you could give me a shout out, that'd be greatly appreciated. Ship the mini max, like I said, quarter jukebox, mini max. Turn the cool 75 into 1500. Congrats, man. Get that avatar up there. You don't want me to have to start talking bad about your Raptors who couldn't make it through the play-ins, man. I remember you. I remember what you said about the Sixers every single year, particularly last year when they, of course, beat the Raptors. But shout out to Travis. We like Travis here. Congrats on the $1,500 win. And Jorge, our guy, the giver of gifts in all YouTube chats. Amazing projections and right on the spot. Finally, your Phillies, Lofty. Help me out. Shout out for today's show and tips from EMAC and Digital and Terry McBride. Help getting the same lineup second and fourth in the mini-max today. Thanks to Castic for amazing tools. That's awesome, Jorge. You were up here last week, I think, too. What's that? $1,320-some, second and fourth place. Beautiful stuff. And then you've got Colin. We got a lot today. Told you. Shout out to Petty Theft. Yeah, a friend of the show. We like Petty Theft here, too. And Neil Orfield for being goats at what they do individually. Thanks as well to Stokastic HOF. $800. First place in the end one. The Ultimate Fight Show. Shout out to my peeps, Stokastic.com, for all their insight. Went off their recommendations, but had a few specific plays that hit. Keep up the great work. Yeah, okay. Some monster parlay wins, 25 in the almost 1,900. And don't forget our Bet Pro tool, Odd Shopper. All that's free for the first week. You got links in the description, guys, if you want to check those out. And Ryan finished second out of 55K in the 25-cent contest last night. Great tools led to a nice bankroll booster for a small stakes player like me. Hell yeah, dude. $250 on the quarter, pinch hit. We'll take it. And finally, Cohen. I was a Wiggins 3 away from taking down my first tournament. Shout out to the Live Before Lock crew, always dropping knowledge. End one, $400, third place. Shout out to all you guys. Download the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. We'll welcome you back if you've been here before as well. And get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum.
I only have room for so much information, and most of it's not relevant.
You got to keep the DFS info in there.
Oh yeah, and that's it. What is happening, everybody, and welcome to Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock. We're sponsored by No House Advantage today. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Neil and I are about to break down a 2-game slate. We will leave 0 stones unturned here. If you guys have any questions at all, throw them into YouTube chat, throw them into Discord. We're going to be able to answer your questions today. And I'm happy to be focusing on something else. This has been a no good, very bad, terrible day because why do you think it's been a bad day, Neil?
Because it's tax day.
It's the day before tax day. So I had to file my taxes today. I had to pay my taxes. And the whole thing is terrible. I do not enjoy it. I don't imagine anybody enjoys it. But I especially hate it. I do not like paying attention to it. And you and I were talking about, I think it's John Mulaney, who had the joke where the idea of doing taxes where it's like, they know the answer already. They're quizzing you. The government is quizzing you. They already know what it is that you owe them, but they won't just tell you. You have to go through you have to answer all these questions you don't understand. You have to submit forms. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to figure out like where I upload my W-2G, my gambling stuff. And then you get the 1099s from DraftKings and FanDuel. I get my W-2 from work. It's a mess. I don't like any of it. I have to do my deductions. I have to figure out like what I paid in property taxes. I'm not particularly organized. It was terrible. I didn't like it at all. And still, and the consequence per the Mulaney joke is they already know the answer. They quiz you on it. If you're wrong, they send you to prison. So it's the most annoying thing ever. Did you finish your taxes, by the way?
My wife submitted them. We are married filing jointly now. We used to do it individually, but it eventually made sense, and we also made the switch to using Peter Kwan, DFS and NFT CPA on Twitter, and his partner Rich. They do our taxes for us, so they just basically told us how much money to send.
So that is probably the best argument I've ever heard for getting married. She does that's it right there. She does your taxes for you.
It was great.
That's a pretty good deal.
Right. Super easy. I did nothing. I mean, I had to like send them some stuff, but pretty easy.
And for people saying just pay somebody, here's the issue with paying somebody is people don't understand our field at all. Like when I've used accountants in the past, and maybe I should be using the same as you, like a DFS accountant.
Yeah.
But my experience with using accountants has been they don't understand anything we're doing anyway, and they just call me as they're doing everything, and then it takes up just amount of time. But when I do it through an accountant, I have to pay thousands of dollars. As opposed to using TurboTax, I pay hundreds. So I do it that way. And
I had a super old accountant before we switched to Peter. So we did 1 year after we decided to use the accountant. We used my wife's dad's accountant, and he was a super old guy, and just like trying to explain what I'm doing with DFS and NFTs. I don't even know if I had NFTs. I don't think I had NFTs yet at that point. It was just DFS, but it was like he just could not get it, and I kind of felt judged. It was just not an enjoyable experience.
That was my experience as well when I was doing it with an accountant. And I just feel like I'm in high school again when I start filling these things out and do the tests. Like this was the worst class I took in high school. Did you take geometry at any point?
Oh yeah.
It's just, who gives a fuck? Some old lady, for me, was Miss Sheldon. She hadn't been, she probably hadn't been fucked since the Vietnam War. She's sitting there, she's like, what shape is this? I'm like, it's a triangle. And she's like, I don't believe you. You guessed correctly. Prove it. And that's everything I'm doing here is that you have to upload these documents and prove how much you've made and how much what the deduction should be. It was terrible. I'm ready to talk about NBA DFS now. Pass the taxes, but my heart rate, blood pressure, everything through the roof today. It's been no good. I'm ready to talk about NBA DFS, and only a 2-game slate. We've got a couple of games here. One is in between the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers. The other one, Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings. So just general game overviews first, Neil. We've got the Warriors who are down 1-0 in the series to the Kings. The Kings took the first game, so the Warriors now slight favorites in the second one. How do you like the odds of the Kings' chances to win the series? Do you think this is a realistic outcome that we see the Kings knock off the Warriors, defending champs?
I give them a 25% chance. I think it's realistic. What do you think?
I think it is too. I mean, so the thing I think is pretty crazy about some of the odds here is nothing's changed from game 2 to game 1. The Kings were favored in game 1. They win the game. And then the Warriors are favored in this game just because they lost the first game. That's the way people are betting it. Because, it's like a gambling fallacy where it's, well, they lost the first game. There's no way they could lose the second game. So I actually do think there's a little bit of value in Kings +2. Because just once again, think about it logically. If they were favored in game 1, they win game 1. Nothing changed. It's not like the Aaron Fox or Sabonis or anything's gotten hurt. Why would the Kings not also be favored in game 2? Like what's different here? So I do think there's a little bit of value on the Kings. Then if we talk about the other series, 76ers, Nets, 76ers win the first game in a blowout. They're 10-point favorites today. Do you think it's realistic the Nets come back to win this series? Because to me, that's kind of a no.
Yeah, I give them like a 2% chance, maybe. I don't know. Is that even too much? That's probably fair because Embiid could get hurt or something. But yeah, no, not much of a chance.
Yeah, it's funny. So it's like the other day when Ryan and I were doing a playoff preview, I said I didn't think the Heat had any chance to beat the Bucks unless there was a Giannis injury. And what happens? Giannis immediately gets hurt. So you do have to think there is some possibility of injuries happening in these spots. Something that happens, especially when it comes to playoff time. We see players worn down. They get hurt from time to time. So I've got lineups built here. DraftKings, FanDuel. I've got tiers lineups. I've got showdown lineups built. So anybody has any questions about any of those kinds of formats at me, and I am prepared to answer any and all questions you guys are bringing to the table. Looking into Discord where we do not have any questions yet, but I do think we saw a super chat from before. Here it is. Ace of Spade, the normal question. He wants to know DK tiers. So yeah, I've got my DK tiers lineups built out right here in front of me, and I'm going to tell you who I got the most exposure to tier by tier. And I'll give you a second option as well. Only 2 games, and I do think there's going to be a lot of overlap. So I'll give you secondary options for some of these as well. I know it's not directly what your question asked, but more can't hurt, right, Neil? We give him a little more than he asked for.
He'll appreciate it.
All right. Tier 1. Joel Embiid, I think, is pretty clearly the top option. He's the highest priced player for DraftKings purposes. And then in tier 1, you got Embiid, you got Curry, you got Sabonis, Harden to pick from. So I got to Embiid the most in tier 1, Steph Curry the second most. Curry has a massive ceiling. It's just he doesn't hit that ceiling as frequently as a player like a Joel Embiid does, but the ceiling is there for Steph Curry. I like him the second most. Tier 2, I can't even really give out another option other than De'Aaron Fox. He's so far ahead of the other players we have here. Fox, Dinwiddie, Klay Thompson, Mikal Bridges. So I'm just going to say Fox in tier 2. Tier 3, lots of viable options. I'm going to go Draymond 1 as my favorite option. Nick Claxton 2. Tier 4, another really tight one. Tier 4, we've got Kevin Huerter, Cam Johnson, Kevon Looney, Malik Monk, Jordan Poole, who is listed as questionable to play. I'm going to be going with Kevin Huerter in tier 4, though, and Cam Johnson is my second favorite option. I think guys like Looney, Monk, not far behind either. Tier 5, my favorite option is Royce O'Neal. Second favorite option is Keegan Murray. Tier 6, it's Trey Lyles by a fairly wide margin for me, but if I had to pick a second favorite option, it would be Paul Reed, who did play extremely well off the bench last game. And something else to add, too, that I want to know how you're thinking about this as we go about talking about building lineups. Game 1 of Nets Sixers, like we mentioned before, was a blowout. The Sixers are 10-point favorites today. So the reason I'm going with Paul Reed as my second favorite option in tier 6 is there is an opportunity for him to get extended run in a blowout. Now, when you are building your classic DFS lineups, Neil, are you weighing that possibility at all and thinking about making some lineups where maybe you play for the blowout scenario in the 76ers Nets game, backload the late game and go with like Paul Reed or maybe some obscure value place from the first game and say, hey, if this is a blowout, I'm focused on the late game and I've kind of got some guys who can get garbage run?
Yeah, absolutely. On a 2-game slate, I think it's perfectly reasonable to build as though one game is going to be a blowout and, hope that, play some of the bench guys from that game. So some guys who will get garbage run and then play the studs from the other game. I think you can, on 2-game slates, I think it's a lot more reasonable to play narratives or at least play out different scenarios, not narrative so much, but like play out different scenarios in how you build your lineups. I honestly probably don't do a good enough job of that for like correlating bench players from one team with maybe the studs from the favorite team. I don't know if that would work out exactly. But I think that it is a good idea in general, or I guess from studs from the other game, probably like bench players from one game, studs from the other game, maybe is one way you could correlate it. It's honestly probably not my biggest strength in NBA DFS, but I think on a 2-game slate, definitely reasonable.
Yeah. So we'll talk about some of those options too, because like I said, as we go through, I don't want to leave any stone unturned, especially because we're going to be talking about a 2-game slate for an hour. If we just sit here and we say, here's the best point guard, shooting guard play, like you run out of things to talk about fairly quickly. Hey, look at Olrat14 joined as a YouTube member. So congrats. Olrat's been in the YouTube chat for a little while. And now he is an official YouTube member. By the way, I also see Sotek saying if I'm hearing checkbox 2 to claim your G-string deduction, I'm done. What are we talking about? Like,
he was asking earlier, how do strippers file taxes? I saw the question that started the whole thing. How do strippers file taxes?
I want to know what they're claiming as deductions. What are their working
exactly?
Expenses?
Yeah. I need to respond to who's Bridge Lion really does not like players who take charges. I fucking love players who take charges. Like those are the grittiest. Like it's so difficult to do. It's like you're enduring so much pain, picking up a foul on often the star of the other team. I think it's actually a really valuable skill that's probably a little bit underrated. You seem like you disagree.
Here's the issue I have with it. It's not a basketball play. It kind of to me undermines the idea of the sport. If you're kind of fraudulently creating contact,
sure,
you're not defending anybody actively. What you're doing is you're basically trying to be like, hey, I'm going to try to make this guy run into me, so it'll be a foul, right? It's not like it's good defense. So to me, it's different. If an offensive player, pushes off, elbows somebody in the face, like, yeah, that's an offensive foul. And I think that is technically labeled a charge in some kind of scenarios. But a lot of the charges you see, especially the ones lately, the injury to Ja Morant was basically a non-basketball play drawing a charge, right? Ja Morant is 10 feet in the air, his head is above the rim, and somebody basically undercuts him to try to draw a foul. Same thing with the Giannis injury. He's driving to the basket, although Giannis was a little bit more reckless than Ja Morant was. Morant was really trying to make more of a basketball play, and Giannis certainly seeks contact when he drives to the basket, but same thing. Giannis gets undercut by somebody trying to draw a charge. And now we're without two of the better players in the NBA potentially going forward in the playoffs because of charges. So that's why I'm in favor of getting rid of it. But now the other side of that is that a lot of the rules or some of the recent rules that we see in the NBA are a little bit more in favor of the offensive players as opposed to the defensive players. This would be another one that favors the offensive players. So I think you get rid of charges just because they create so many injuries. That's really the issue I have.
I hear you. I see a lot of people in chat saying it's not difficult. You know, it's really easy to do. It only happens a couple times per game, and like it's super valuable. If it were easy to take charges, they would players in the NBA would take a lot more charges. It's also difficult in the sense that it's you are giving up your body, like you are putting yourself at risk. I hear what you're saying about possibly getting rid of it. I understand the downside of charges, but players who are willing to take charges, I appreciate that they're willing to do so.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that part. Like, I agree that somebody who's willing to take a charge, good on them, right? If you have a guy on your team, a Kyle Lowry, who's willing to give up their body to take a charge, I don't have an issue with that mindset.
Right.
I just don't like the rule seems to incentivize dangerous plays.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree. Not disagreeing there.
So that's the issue I have. I don't know if there's a way they could change the wording of it. It's something I know I don't like. I don't know the exact optimal way to change it. I'd have to put a little more thought into it. But we'll let Jordan be the tiebreaker. Jordan, charge, pro or against? Oh my God, I lost.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Jordan.
Could the audience hear Jordan, by the way?
I don't know. Jordan agreed with me.
Yeah, Jordan agreed with Neil. I don't know if you guys say, but Jordan said that the charge is the greatest rule in the history of the NBA, which I don't really agree with either, but that's the side that Jordan's on. And yeah, just against me. Ryan Stubbs, you should ask for Rex Chapman. Absolute worst account that's ever existed on Twitter. I will do no such thing. Rex Chapman.
He just steals other people's material constantly.
He steals other people's material and videos and then adds like bro or dog or an emoji to the end of it and passes it off as his own content. He's quite annoying. No thanks. Not for me. Let's go back into Discord. And by the way, if you guys do not have a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership yet, which covers pretty much every single DFS sport out there, we've got tools for all of it. Projections, ownership projections. Sign up for a Stokastic membership using the link below in the description box. Because when you sign up for the first time, you are going to get 50% off your first package. And that is getting you access to all the tools we have on site and access to our Discord, where you guys could ask us questions during the show. And we've got some questions in there right now. First from Pat Clay Tomstar, who has a question about Klay Thompson, believe it or not. He wants to know, how many threes do I have projected for Klay? So I'm trying to remember our projections because I'm just using ours for, yeah, I think we had Klay for a little bit under 5. Let me see if that's correct. Klay Thompson, threes, we have him for 5 on the dot now. I think it was like 4.8 earlier in the day, but yeah, we're currently projecting him for 5 threes. So that is where we have Klay projected, Pat Clay there. And then a Fargo guy who gets more minutes tonight, Keegan Murray or Trey Lyles. I have to think that's Keegan Murray.
Yeah, seems a lot more likely. I mean, we could look at what we have him projected for minutes, and of course there's volatility in it, but we're expecting a competitive game here. We have Keegan Murray projected for 26 minutes, Trey Lyles for 17, so definitely the favorite.
Yeah, and let me look what the minutes were last game and try to figure out what it is that. All right. So yeah. So last game, we only got 16 minutes out of Keegan Murray. He started, He played extremely poorly, low usage, didn't make his shots, didn't really provide much else. But I think we have to look at the larger sample size of the entire season where Keegan Murray, by and large part, played more than Trey Lyles. I think that's going to be the case. So Keegan Murray there, I think it's somewhat telling what happened in the first games of some of these series. But with that said, Keegan Murray saw his playing time reduced and played 16 minutes. And that still only ended up leading to 18 minutes for Trey Lyles. And by the way, Trey Lyles, the main reason Trey Lyles played 18 minutes, he had 16 points, knocked down 4 threes, and had 6. Sorry, I misspoke. 16 points, 6 rebounds in that game. That's going to earn you some extra playing time, and it amounted to 18 minutes for Trey Lyles. And I don't imagine he's going to have that kind of efficiency again.
Yep, I'm with you.
So Keegan Murray. And 604 is saying you can't just run through someone either. You kind of can. I've seen Giannis do it a bunch of times. There's a lot of players that are extremely physical that get a favorable whistle that have realized how they could kind of weaponize their physicality in a way, right? Because Giannis is a guy who gets a superstar. The other thing too is, who the fuck wants to stand in front of Giannis and Antetokounmpo going downhill and draw a charge? So he's really able to weaponize his physicality with some of the block and charge rules. And I think it does help benefit him also in a way that I don't really consider to be in the spirit of what basketball is supposed to be. Just my opinion though. Swanson 79. Can you play Green and Looney in the same lineup for a DK Largefield? For a 2-game slate, you could do a lot. I would not recommend setting too many rules, restrictions for a 2-game slate. Is there anything you're setting in terms of restrictions for a 2-gamer, Neil?
Just in terms of, I've set a rule max of 5 from one team currently. There was some that I was thinking about setting earlier. Let me think about this a little bit. I have not set any rules so far. I mean, you could consider setting rules that are like Embiid and Paul Reed, but I wouldn't. Let me think it through a little bit. I don't have any rules off the top of my head that I highly recommend here. Gary Payton and Jordan Poole you could consider, because Gary Payton might cut into Jordan Poole's minutes a little bit if they think they need his defense. But I don't think I would set that one. You could do Day'Ron Sharpe and Nicholas Claxton. But yeah, most of these have at least one player who is cheap enough that they could get a lot of fantasy points in not that many minutes. So I don't believe I'm setting any rules here because it's a 2-game slate.
It's just so hard, especially because a lot of the reason that I would be setting rules on a full game slate is because you want to maximize your upside. Right. You want to make sure you're eliminating any players that are negatively correlated. On a 2-game slate, particularly for the playoffs, where we don't see teams go into their bench as frequently as the regular season, it's hard because you could have a bench guy who goes out as like min price and scores 9 fantasy points in his optimal on that slate. So I don't have any rules that I set. I just kind of ripped everything as is, just like, all right, run the lineups, look at the ownership. How do players compare relative to the ownership? But nothing did I go in and say like, oh, I can't play Gary Payton and Steph Curry in the same lineup. There was no kind of real consideration like that. But while we are on the topic of the Warriors, well, not really on the topic, I just kind of brought it up in passing there, but Jordan Poole is officially listed as questionable. Any concerns that he won't play today? And there any kind of considerations you are making in your lineups as you submit them?
Yeah, I guess he's questionable. I don't have any, honestly, I don't have any strong read. I think I would expect him to play. I think it's more likely that he plays, but being questionable, I'd say it's, there's at least some real possibility that he doesn't play here. He's not typically on the injury report for no reason. So I think there's some possibility he misses. Do you, what's your read on the situation?
I tend to think he plays just because consider the stakes of the game and the circumstances is he played 22 minutes last game, right? Maybe part of that's because he's banged up. Another part of it too is Jordan Poole is, just to be frank, not all that good. He doesn't provide much on the defensive end. Offensively, he was wildly inefficient this year, if my memory serves correct. And, Gary Payton's also somebody who's a very valuable defensive player. And I think the biggest issue with Jordan Poole, in addition to him being banged up, is just that he hasn't had a very good season. It's certainly been subpar relative to expectations. Jordan Poole bringing up his numbers for the year. He shot 43% from the field, 33.6% from 3. He's not somebody who's particularly safe with the basketball. Even in not a mass amount of minutes, he averaged a career high north of 3 turnovers per game. So it's not like he's a super effective playmaker. He's very reliant on being able to knock down shots, which he did at least at an average clip last year, 36.5% from 3. It's kind of crazy in hindsight that he got paid as much money as he did by the Warriors, because you're looking at a guy who's a high volume shooter and you don't want him taking that many shots either, right? Because you look at the other players he's playing with, who do you want shooting the ball? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. Every shot that Jordan Poole takes is coming away from those guys. And then also, like I said, he's just not a good defensive player. So I think he plays. I'm questionable how many minutes he ends up playing though. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where it does come down to. I've thought about like Jordan Poole and Gary Payton, because Gary Payton, obviously, if you want somebody in there playing defense, makes more sense to me that they would want to play Gary Payton. So I'm like, maybe I could consider setting that rule. I guess those rules, I might consider him if I'm making like 20 or fewer lineups. So which I don't think, applies to the majority of people using an optimizer. I'm not, maybe it does. I'm not sure. I assume if you're using an optimizer, it tends to be people who are making more lineups, which is why I don't typically recommend these things. But if you are playing like 20 or fewer lineups, I might consider setting a rule in that case and just try to make the strongest, best correlated lineups. And in that case, I might, set a rule, no Gary Payton with Jordan Poole, something like that. But yeah, it's interesting because Jordan Poole, if he does end up super low owned, I would have interest in a 5,700 Jordan Poole. I don't care if he isn't that good. As long as he is chucking, that's a positive for me in DFS. So like I would have interest if he is active, and we're going to get him at a discount in terms of ownership, especially after the game he had last time out. But we haven't projected for 19% ownership, which isn't like particularly low, to the point where I'm like really wanting to play a lot of him.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern with him in regards to the end is I think he gives it a go. I think he tries to play. Here's where some of the injuries are different in the postseason compared to the regular season. When somebody is not 100% in the regular season, it's 82 games, you just give them the night off.
Yep.
In the postseason, if somebody's trying to play through an injury, that could really significantly hamper their fantasy output because they could be less effective. And they could also just play less minutes because either one, they're less effective, or two, they just aren't feeling particularly healthy. So I am not going to be on Jordan Poole. And for anybody, by the way, who thinks that Jordan Poole is having a good season, I would ask you, what do you think he did well this year? He didn't shoot the ball well, and he's a high volume shooter. This is my least favorite archetype of a player, by the way. No defense, not really a playmaker, is scoring dependent, but also doesn't score efficiently.
Yeah, the worst.
Not really something I like.
And generally the most overrated, like by far. People love them because they're like, he puts up so many points, he's good. And then it's like, just look at the actual numbers.
Yeah, so sorry for the Jordan Poole fans out there. I know that he's flashy. That's something else too. He's fun to watch when he's making his shots. He's had a bunch of big fantasy games this year when Steph Curry was out or when Klay Thompson was out. How much did it really benefit the Warriors this year? I'm skeptical of that. So let's look at the situation. If Jordan Poole is to not play, if he ends up getting ruled out, is there anybody you'd like to get to more of in his absence?
Dante DiVincenzo, Gary Payton. I think those are the two biggest beneficiaries, probably.
Same. And primarily for me, Gary, by the way, Gary Payton, do you know his nickname? One of the best nicknames we have out there.
Baby Glove? Just
the
guessing.
Mitten.
The Mitten. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you guys don't know, Gary Payton, who was one of the better perimeter defenders in NBA history, his nickname was the Glove. So now you got his son, who's also a fantastic perimeter defender, one of the better ones also in the NBA. He's the Mitten. So I like that nickname a lot. And Gary Payton also finally healthy. He's had a really up and down year. He got signed by the Blazers, which was already a shitty scenario in the offseason. And then he has this injury where apparently, according to reports, the Blazers kind of made him play through it and didn't have his best interest in mind. And then he ends up getting shut down. He needed to have surgery at one point. Finally healthy back with the Warriors, where he really thrived in the playoffs last year. So Gary Payton, especially if Jordan Poole is out. Don't forget also, in the playoffs last year, do you remember this, Neil? It was not uncommon in the Western Conference Finals, in the NBA Finals against the Celtics. Jordan Poole would fairly regularly get benched when he was healthy for Gary Payton. There were games where Payton would play significantly more minutes than Jordan Poole. So I think Gary Payton, particularly low ownership, pretty good large field tournament play. So something to keep an eye on. Somebody who I like, by the way, even if Jordan Poole ends up playing, just because I think Poole's minutes could be siphoned by Gary Payton. Is he somebody that you'd be getting to if Poole is in?
Yeah, I agree with you. It does come back. I keep on going back and forth on would I set a rule, because generally the case for Gary Payton is he might cut into Jordan Poole's minutes, right? So like, do we want to set a rule here? I mean, I do think it comes down to how many lineups you're setting. Like I tend to be more restrictive with rules if I'm playing fewer lineups. If I'm playing a 150 set, I don't want to have 0 lineups with 2 players who could do well together, even if it's less likely. So I'm less likely to set a strict rule. But I think that, if you are playing 20 or so lineups, I might set that rule. Or if you're hand building, I probably would not play them together, Gary Payton and Jordan Poole. Would you agree with that?
If I was hand building a lineup, I wouldn't. But I mean, even in like 10 lineups, I'd be fine with it because Payton's so cheap. There aren't that many good cheap options. Jordan Poole also, relative to his upside, because we talked about it, he's somebody who has fantasy upside, even if I don't think he's the best real life player in the world and think he's overrated. By the way, news, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., officially named Defensive Player of the Year. There we go. Pretty excited about that. So for anybody who thought that he was
you win
not
some
going
money
to
on
win,
that?
I did. Not like, because I didn't get him at like his peak number, but I think the longest number I have Triple J at is like 12-1 on FanDuel. So not bad. I'm happy with that for sure. It was my preferred option. But remember, there was that narrative about how the home cooking with the stat keeping could prevent him from winning. And then there was a deep dive done in by Kirk Goldsberry and by Zach Lowe. And basically found out that no, he actually just has had better defensive stats at home than on the road. And all the stat keeping was up to par. But either way, Triple J wins Defensive Player of the Year. But no, I'm cool with Poole and Peyton in the same lineup just because it's 2 games late and the prices are cheap enough.
Yeah, that's fair. So I actually set a rule, and I don't know how much this really makes sense, but I'm playing 60 lineups. So I set a rule at most 2 of Gary Payton, Dante DiVincenzo, and Jordan Poole.
Okay, that's not unreasonable. Yeah, that's not unreasonable. We've got, by the way, somebody in chat, Nikos, just because he wants to know, do we know when MVP is going to be announced? No, but Embiid won. If you look at the early voting returns, it's Embiid. I think we know like half of the vote, and Embiid is like 80% of the first place votes or something. He ended up winning. So Embiid's going to win the MVP. Super chat from Jay. Jay wants to know, DiVincenzo, Tucker, Peyton, Murray, DFS in order. Okay. Boy, this is going to be...
I need to read this one, I think.
Yeah. So, DiVincenzo, Tucker, Peyton, Murray, DFS in order.
Oh, man, this is a really tough one.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it based on the lineups I've built and how much exposure I have to these guys. So let me scroll through. It is a tricky one, though, to go through. All right. Although there's also... All right. So for me, number 1 is Keegan Murray. And it's hard to feel great about him considering the limited minutes he played in the first game of the series. But I think that could scare people off of him. His price isn't all that exorbitant. It's a 2-game slate. And I do think that it's more likely than not that he goes back to playing the minutes he did in the regular season. So I'm going to go Keegan Murray 1. I'm going to go DFS 2. Dante DiVincenzo 3. Gary Payton 4. PJ Tucker 5. Do you have a list here?
I'm working on it. Yeah, I guess if PJ Tucker does come in at 5% ownership as we have him projected, I think that I would have more interest in him. I am a little bit concerned because he had a good game last time out that he's going to get more steam due to box score chasers. So maybe I wouldn't go there. Man, it's really tough. This grouping is it's a very good question. Is really what it comes down to. I think I'm with you on Keegan Murray number 1. Mm-hmm. If we're assuming that Jordan Poole plays, and it's probably DFS number 2.
Sorry to cut you off. If we assume Poole is out, DiVincenzo and Peyton are just by far the best, cheapest options on the slate. So that would definitely upgrade them in that scenario.
Right. So that's what makes it a little bit tough. It's like, well, there is some chance that these guys become like absolutely smash plays, in which case they would jump to the top. So that's my biggest hesitation, I guess, is that there is at least some, like I'd say probably a 30% chance that Jordan Poole does sit. Do you think that's about right? Or do you think it's lesser than that? Or it's either sits or like, is limited, like can't play past the first quarter because he's hurt.
I think we should just give them a little bit of a bump just because of the scenarios where there's just the chance of them playing more that's hard to project for.
Right. It is very hard to project for. So in that case, I think I would probably go Keegan Murray 1, Gary Payton 2, DiVincenzo 3, DFS 4. I have some interest in PJ Tucker just because I do think he's not going to get much ownership probably. And he's starting, but I still think I'd probably put him 5.
And and a lot of people are saying it in chat. I really do think that the most likely scenario here is Poole plays. I just don't know how well he plays. And I don't know how much he's going to be hampered by that ankle. He might say, hey, I'm going to give it a go. He goes out. It doesn't feel great. He gets blown by a couple of times when he's trying to defend somebody. And then all of a sudden they say, all right, Jordan Poole's playing 10 minutes today. It's within the range of outcomes. And it's something that is real, because when you're doing projections, you can only give everybody one set of minutes. It's not like you'd be like, oh, here's DiVincenzo 18 minutes. Here's DiVincenzo 22. Here's DiVincenzo 30. Same with Gary Payton. So it's It's tricky just because of that, but I do think it makes guys like DiVincenzo and Gary Payton better GPP plays just because there is that hidden minutes upside.
Yeah. I see Olrat added us, but he did not actually at our handles. So I just saw it. So like if you actually like at our full names, then it'll pop out on our screen as red. He asked if we saw his 18-month super chat, and I did not. I saw that he, had been here for 18 months or something earlier, but I did not see a message along with it. So if you could put that back in chat, Olrat, unless you have it, Greg.
No, I actually I messaged Jordan also to double check on that, but there wasn't one. But it's because I did shout out Olrat that we had that thing that came up, the membership notification. But whether it was an issue with YouTube or whatever, Olrat, it didn't get posted there. But don't like leave another super chat. Just text in chat, and whatever your question is, just throw it in there. And I'm reading chat right now and waiting for your message to pop up. So, all right, whatever your question is, just type it into YouTube chat and we will answer that for sure. Now we'll go back into Discord and see what questions we have there. If there's none, which we do have one right here from the Black Mamba 81. How do you rank the pay up options? Also, where is the value tonight? Thanks, guys. So let's prioritize the pay up options. And let's see, what are we considering the pay up options? Let's make a price.
De'Aaron Fox and up.
Okay. I think that's totally reasonable. 8,500 and higher. Fox, Harden, Sabonis, Curry, Embiid. Who are the priorities of that group for you, Neil? So let's do it. Who are the two players you get the most of, and who is the one you get the least of those guys?
So in my first run, it's De'Aaron Fox the most, and I actually have the same amount of Sabonis and Embiid. Yeah, so I'd probably go De'Aaron Fox and I guess Embiid, since I don't want to play teammates together. And then the least, that's really tough because I do have some interest in Steph Curry, even at 33% ownership, even though he's like, he's 9,600, the second most expensive. Just such a great matchup. But I could see him shooting the ball a little bit more in a game that they must win. So I'm a little bit I'm hesitant to rank Steph Curry last. I think that it's probably James Harden last for me, to be honest.
It is Harden last for me. And it's funny because the last Sixers slate we had, I was not on Joel Embiid at all. I did the show Saturday, and it was Rinback and I breaking it down. And at the time, and a lot of it was because of ownership. Joel Embiid was expected to be popular. It was hard to get to him because of the center eligibility. And also that was a full slate we had that day. And I really like James Harden. Harden, I think, was my most roster pay up option on the slate. And I think Joel Embiid was almost a total fade for me on Saturday, if I remember correctly. And now for today, I prefer Joel Embiid to James Harden. So my two most rostered pay ups there, De'Aaron Fox and Joel Embiid. My least favorite is going to be James Harden as far as pay ups go. The other part of the question from the Black Mamba 81 is, where's the value tonight? So, Neil, who are the two value plays you get the most exposure to?
That's really, it's tough. So like during the regular season, I can just easily sort by value. And usually at the top, you'll see players who are like 3,000, 3,300. Now we're like the top value play on this slate, like point per dollar, is Joel Embiid. It's absolutely insane how bad the value is on a slate like this. I mean, if Kevin Huerter counts as value, it would be Kevin Huerter. I'm imagining he'd want somebody under 4,000. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah. So my answers in terms of the cheap-ish guys I get the most exposure to, which once again, cheap-ish.
Right.
But there's not like someone looking as a punt play and be like, oh my God, this is the guy today. It doesn't exist. The players that I get who are cost efficient that I get the most of is Kevin Huerter and Draymond Green.
Absolutely.
If we are going to look cheaper than that, I think that Day'Ron Sharpe is interesting for two reasons. Number one, he's currently playing backup center for the Nets. The other thing too is this game is live to be a blowout. If this game ends up being one-sided, Day'Ron Sharpe is getting garbage time. He probably smashes in that scenario. So if we're just going total punt option, Day'Ron Sharpe, who for a 2-game slate project for 18% ownership, that's my guy for cheap.
Yeah, I have 33% Day'Ron Sharpe right now, which we'll see what happens after. I'm probably going to be adjusting a little bit more, but I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, so that's going to be my option on the cheap end. And once again, I said I think it makes sense on this slate to play some lineups anticipating a blowout. If you're playing more than one, I wouldn't do it if you're playing one lineup, but if you're building a handful of lineups, make a group of them that you're playing the first game to be a blowout. You play some garbage play like Paul Reed, Day'Ron Sharpe from the first game, and then just load up on the night game, right? You go De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Steph Curry, cheapies from the early game. I think that's a very reasonable lineup build and something I like doing for this particular slate. Are there any other players for really cheap that stand out to you? I'm going to add, because we talked about it before, Gary Payton to the mix, particularly in the event that Jordan Poole is either limited or ends up getting ruled out. Any other cheap value guys that you like getting to outside of Day'Ron Sharpe?
Let's see, super cheap. Let me actually sort by salary here, make it a little bit easier on myself. Could we see more of Jonathan Kuminga here without, if we think that Poole is going to be limited? I don't know. Royce O'Neal is interesting at 4,400. I would say nobody that's like super. Oh, Paul Reed is interesting at 3,500 for the same reason that he would get blowout run. Yeah, but it's, I mean, Day'Ron Sharpe, clearly the leader in the clubhouse as far as cheap guys go. I also just looking at like some of the like point per dollar value in that sense options. I want to throw Kevon Looney out there as well. Looks like a very solid point per dollar option. And I'm really interested in Andrew Wiggins at 5,900. I think that Andrew Wiggins in Sacramento in a game where I would expect him to play more minutes than he played last time out. And in game one, he played 28 minutes in game one. I would expect him to just, play more minutes. That was his first game in a couple months. So I think that Andrew Wiggins could play. I mean, he had been playing big minutes. Wouldn't surprise me to see Andrew Wiggins now at this point just get up to 34 minutes or something, at which point you're going to want to play him at relatively low ownership.
Which also, it ties into the question. Olrat left his question in the YouTube chat here. TK single entry, pick 2, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk. That's Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins for me. And Wiggins in the mid-range, I think he's going overlooked by the field, because another guy, kind of like we said, there's uncertainty with the minutes of Jordan Poole. There is for sure a little bit of uncertainty with Andrew Wiggins, but I feel pretty confident he plays big minutes today. And like relative to last game, I think he plays either full or close to full minutes, just considering the stake of the game. He wasn't out because of an injury, right? Andrew Wiggins had missed time for a couple of months because of a family situation. Reportedly, his dad had been sick. So it's not like he's coming back from a knee injury and this is any kind of medical concern. It's just, what does his conditioning look like? They played him 28 minutes in his first game. And think about the stakes for this game. The Warriors down 1-0 in the series. Obviously, they don't want to go down 2-0. And you have to think they're going to ride their best players as much as they can in this spot. Maybe Curry plays a couple extra minutes. Klay Thompson. Wouldn't be surprised if Wiggins falls into that same mix as well. So, Olrat, to answer your question, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, those are going to be the two that I pick.
Yeah, me too.
Next question here is a super chat from Joseph Corona. He wants to know top 5 FanDuel cash options. Yes, sir. Let me look over at FanDuel and see what I have in terms of exposures and what I think looks best from a cash game perspective. So to start us off here, I think we have to go with Kevin Huerter and Draymond Green, both projected for north of 50% ownership, 58% for Huerter, 53% for Draymond Green. I get a bunch of them when I run lineups that have no kind of rules or anything like that. So Huerter, Draymond Green, play both of them. Cam Johnson's another one that I get to a whole bunch of. Cam Johnson, $5,700. Normally, I might be a little bit concerned about the matchup, blowout risk, whatnot, but it's a 2-game slate. So Cam Johnson, same way about Spencer Dinwiddie. So those are 4. Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, Draymond Green, Kevin Huerter. As for the 5th one, I am going to say Domantas Sabonis. And one of the reasons Sabonis looks so much different on FanDuel as compared to DraftKings, he has power forward and center eligibility on FanDuel. So much easier to fit him into lineup. So Domantas Sabonis is my favorite pay-up option for FanDuel purposes. So to recap there, Huerter, Draymond Green, Cam Johnson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Domantas Sabonis. 5 players I think you should be playing in cash games tonight for FanDuel. My filler arc prize picks, what do you think? Royce over 7.5 points and Niang over points and Cam Johnson over PRA. I'll tell you what I think. A couple of things. First off, we're sponsored by No House Advantage today, so we'll shout them out. And if you guys haven't signed up in No House Advantage yet, use the link below. It's going to get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. And then also, we have our prize picks package here. Well, it's called the Pick'em package. It's going to include prize picks, No House Advantage, and underdog projections. You could get access to that for less than $5 when you sign up using the link that we have below. But let's look at what we have here. Royce O'Neal over 7.5 points, Niang over points, and Cam Johnson over PRA. Let me look to see what those numbers are on prize picks because I don't know them off the top of my head. So to start here, he wants to know Royce O'Neal over 7.5 points. Royce O'Neal, I would stay away from that. It's a very fair line. We actually lean towards the under in our projection. Royce O'Neal is one of my least favorite chalk plays on the 2 game side. I think he's wildly overowned. I would stay away from the over on Royce O'Neal. Niang points. I don't mind. It's a 5.5. It's a really fair number. We've got him projected for 6. I would say just because of the chance that the game's a blowout and Niang could play garbage run, if I had to take a side of that, I would lean with the over. I prefer the Niang over to the Royce O'Neal over. And then Cam Johnson PRA is, boy, of all the names I can't spell, Johnson, I'm spelling incorrectly as I'm typing in here.
You got this, Greg. You'll figure it out.
For me. Cam Johnson PRA. Another one that looks pretty fair. But if I had to take a side, I would lean towards the over on Cam Johnson. I am playing a bunch of Cam Johnson DFS today. So Cam Johnson, I'm cool with the over PRA. Royce O'Neal points, I'd stay away from that. Niang over points. If I had to take a side, I would also say stay away from that. But if you absolutely needed to fill out your flex play or power play, whatever you're doing, I'm okay with Niang over points. Next question we have in our Discord comes from Sir George Peelsworth. Mr. Peelsworth wants to know, he's playing 333 on FanDuel, only 67 entries. Do I prefer Embiid or Looney at center? For FanDuel, I have more exposure to, well, actually I have it super close between the two of them. I'm going to say Embiid for the center spot. I'd rather use my Warriors exposure on other players. You can only play 4 players on FanDuel. And one thing that Embiid allows you to do is, like, you could play Wiggins, you could play Steph Curry, you could play Klay Thompson, you could play Gary Payton. I don't necessarily know that I want Looney to take up one of my center spots on FanDuel. I mean, I like him overall, but if it's just between him and Embiid, I'm going to lean towards Embiid for that reason. Next question here, JEW. Not sure if I missed it, but any mention of Len instead of Paul or Sharp? I'm a little skeptical we see Alex Len get the same minutes he played last game. I prefer both Shaedon Sharpe and Paul Reed. I prefer Day'Ron Sharpe. Wrong Sharpe. I prefer Day'Ron Sharpe and Paul Reed to Alex Len. Is Alex Len somebody that you have interest in?
Currently have 5%. So 3 shares in 60 lineups. He's fine. He could play a little bit. Not going to be super highly owned. What do we have the projected ownership at? We've got Alex Len at 4.3%. So I guess I'm slightly above the field with my 5%. So I'm okay with it. But I also currently have 0 shares of Paul Reed, which I'm going to amend. So we'll see what happens there.
I have 2% of Alex Len in the lineups I built, and I just get to more of Sharpe. I get a lot
more Sharpe.
Yeah, I have a lot more of Sharpe. And by the way, that is his question. He's asking if we prefer Len to Paul and Sharpe.
Oh, then no.
Yeah. It's if I had to rank those guys, Day'Ron Sharpe 1, Paul Reed 2, and then Alex Len 3. Len popped up in 2% of lineups for me. So very, very low priority. Make sure there was no more super chats here, but it looks like we are covered here. So let's go through our most rostered players, Neil. You can do it for DraftKings. I'll do it for FanDuel, and we'll just talk about the players we get the most exposure to at each spot. So for you, point guard on DraftKings, who are the 2 players you have the most of?
De'Aaron Fox and Steph Curry.
All right. FanDuel for me, Spencer Dinwiddie and DeAnthony Melton. Shooting guard,
Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk.
Kevin Huerter, and actually now Gary Payton II, the mitten at shooting guard. Let's go. Jordan Poole got ruled out or be limited. Payton 4,200 on FanDuel. Something else I'll add is he's so excellent from a defensive standpoint. You look at the last couple of games he played in. First playoff game against the Kings, he got 20 minutes, 2 steals. Final game of the regular season, 20 minutes, 4 steals. Pretty favorable for FanDuel scoring when you get those extra defensive stats out of Gary Payton. So I like him quite a bit for FanDuel purposes. Small forward, who are you getting the most exposure to on VK?
Kevin Huerter and Andrew Wiggins.
Kevin Huerter, Cameron Johnson, and then Andrew Wiggins for me. Power forward, who you got the most of there?
Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green.
Draymond Green, Cam Johnson, Domantas Sabonis. Center.
Draymond and Kevon Looney.
Yeah, I'm going to So I have a lot of exposure to Draymond and Sabonis here as well. They're technically my two most rostered centers, but a lot of that's because they have the eligibility of power forward. If I'm just going to talk about centers, Joel Embiid, Kevon Looney, and Day'Ron Sharpe on FanDuel. So Sharpe is not quite as appealing on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings because he's 4,300 on FanDuel. But another guy also, you can play him at power forward and center. Adds a little bit of help to him on FanDuel, but still 4,300 makes him a little bit less appealing relative to DraftKings purposes. Now let's also look at some of the chalk options. Is there anybody you look at as being overowned on this slate that you want to be underweight to the field? Any position?
All right, let me see.
For me, the answer is Royce O'Neal. So Royce O'Neal is super popular. And by the way, when I say really popular, I don't even mean popular just for a two, like he's popular for a 2-game slate. Royce O'Neal is today, one of the most rostered players of the entire day. He's not a particularly great fantasy player. He's got a tough matchup on the road against the Philadelphia 76ers. Game 1 of the series, he played 28 minutes. He put up 17 fantasy points. He comes off the bench for the Nets. This year, as a bench player, 26 minutes per game, 21 fantasy points. Now you factor in the matchup. He's somebody I don't think it's unreasonable to expect less than 20 fantasy points from. Considering his price, the ownership, I'm underweight to him. Are you coming in underweight to field on Royce O'Neal or any other chalk plays you don't like as much as the field is getting to?
Most of the crunches I run, I am coming underweight to the field on Royce O'Neal. I'm still running some crunches, so I'm not finalized yet, but I'm trying to be underweight. I agree with you. He's a little bit overowned at 37.5%. I'd rather just spread out ownership on some of the lower owned guys in that price range.
Yeah, so we see that the same way. And anybody else you're noticing you're coming in underweight to? If not, totally cool.
Yeah, not by any like significant margin here. I'd say it's Royce O'Neal. I'm currently pretty well underweight to the field on Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't know that I love that I am. Like, it's not something that I highly advocate, but Spencer Dinwiddie looks a little bit over-owned to me at 36.5% just because I love De'Aaron Fox and Steph Curry so much. So and I think I'd rather play Harden even too. So maybe a little bit over-owned there.
Yeah, I get it. Just opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Analyze, risk, trade. This is a guy's name in the Discord channel, by the way. I'm not just saying random words. Harden and Herter or Fox and Barnes? Ooh, tough one. Because I like Fox more than Harden, but I like Herter a lot more than Barnes.
Right.
Which way would you go here? Harden and Herter or Fox and Barnes?
I think I'd go Fox and Barnes.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well. Fox is just such a good pay-up option. We talked about it before when we were going over our favorite pay-ups. It's such a good spot for Fox. That's what I'm going to go with as well.
And I don't think like Barnes is, I guess he's 25. I was thinking Barnes would be low owned, but no, he's 25% projected. So I'm not going to make the point I was thinking about making because it doesn't apply.
All right. Yeah, we're on the same page there. Fox and Barnes, I think that's a good way to go in terms of the way we're building out lineups. And I also want to make sure I highlight some bets for you guys, right? 2-game slate. I'm going to look at NBA Bet Pro and see what are some of our top projected bets of the day. And I don't know how these numbers have changed over the course of the time we've done the show, because I figure leading up to lock, some of them have moved. If you guys want to check out NBA Bet Pro, got a link for that below. You're going to get a 7-day free trial when you sign up using that link. And Neil, I don't know if you knew this. It's not just NBA now. We've got MLB included there as well. Have you heard about this?
I've heard that I can no longer call it NBA Bet Pro and MLB Bet Pro. It's just Bet Pro. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'd update all of the graphics and everything in our in Chalkboard. Had to update all of that and figure
similar
out
to
how
Max.
to do it, size it.
Just like HBO Max. You drop the HBO, like we're rebranding too.
Yeah. Well, HBO Max, I think, is just a thing where they aren't getting as many subscriptions as they like, and they were like, we have to get rid of it. Ours is the opposite. We are adding stuff. So we're calling it Bet Pro because it's got more things. It's more encompassing. HBO Max, they had to get rid of the Max because it wasn't maximum anymore. We should be Bet
No, they
Pro.
got rid of the HBO. It's just Max now.
Oh, it's just Max? I had it in, well, whatever it is. Yeah, they had to drop things because they got rid of stuff. We should be Bet Pro Max.
We should be Bet Pro Max.
Yeah, or Bet Pro Jordan. Just
this is why you get paid the big bucks.
Exactly. Not enough, if you ask me. But
no, definitely not.
Our number one projected bet of the day is Nick Claxton over 8.5 rebounds. We have him projected for nearly 10. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. He's got a difficult matchup against Joel Embiid, but we do know Claxton is going to be on the court for, as many minutes as he can handle without getting into foul trouble. Game 1 of the series, we ended up seeing him end up pull down 10 rebounds in 30 minutes, even though that game was a blowout. If the game's a little more competitive, what are we getting there from Claxton? 32, 34 minutes, maybe even more. For the regular season, Claxton played 30 minutes per game, averaged 9.2 rebounds, played 30 minutes in the first game of the series, pulled down 10 rebounds. It does seem to me like 9.5 would be the fair number here, not 8.5. So I like our projection there, over 8.5 rebounds for Nick Claxton. That is the number one projected bet in BetPro. And like I said, guys, if you want access to more bets throughout the NBA playoffs, as well as MLB, sign up using the link we have below, 7-day trial, totally for free. And I think you're going to make some money on that trial, and it's going to pay for the entire thing going forward. Malukar left us a super chat. Cats, Sean V, or Drop Roses, who is worse? To be honest, I don't really mind anybody who's here at all. So to me, like there's no worst. Anybody who watches, engages with the show is totally cool with me. I don't have any issues with anybody. Now, if you're going to be asking like Eric or, Josh, these people who are much softer than me, who are just constantly blocking people on YouTube, they're going to be opinionated. I don't block people on YouTube. I don't care. I let you guys go and say whatever you want within reason. But like every once in a while we get some like crazy overtly racist stuff, and that's like,
it's Brandon
what are we doing here? Yeah. But it's I really don't mind anybody.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Katz and Sean V will call us stupid from time to time, which is not my favorite thing when they come in here to call us stupid. Drop Roses, honestly, I don't think Drop Roses has been around as much recently. I remember him from like back in the day, but it's not a name that sticks out to me as much.
Yeah, he retired because his guy was Drew Lock. Drew Lock went away and he went away with him. So yeah, I don't have the only person I dislike is whoever reported me to DraftKings. They got my account banned. Whoever that is, I don't like. I don't like you. I don't like if any of you are tax auditors or anything. I don't like you either. Everybody else we're pretty cool with. By the way, we're at lock right now. That went very quick. A lot quicker than I anticipated. If you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I got to finish my baseball lineups up here. I've also got to we gotta engage in some substances to melt away the pain of all the money I gave to the government earlier today. So that does it for us today, guys. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy all the basketball games. We'll be back here tomorrow.